remedy another time. 10,000 times could never be enough to satisfy.
That's Kurt Elling. This is Ask or Tell Me Anything. Here's how Ask or Tell Me Anything works, or fails to work. I propose that you call 888-720-9677. Nope, let me back up. I propose that you first think about whatever it is that you're thinking about. Something that you need to tell me and the rest of the world. And then formulate that. Okay. like what I'm doing right now. And then you call 888-720-9677. Could be anything. Could be about anything at all. It doesn't have to be about things in the news. Could be about things in the news. 888-720-WNPR. It was the same number. One's alphanumeric. 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR. And then you get a chance to talk. Talk to the world. Talk to everybody. Or don't. That's fine. It's fine. I'll be good either way. But I'd prefer if everybody just called up, though. 888-720-9677. Here we go with Mike from Woodbury, a regular caller to this program. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Colin. So I'm afraid this is something to do with what's recent in the news, very recent. Last night on Stephen Colbert, he was supposed to have James Tallarico on, a Democrat running for Senate in Texas. And apparently the FCC called CBS and said, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. The equal time rule. Now, the equal time rule, as far as I can tell, has not been used on shows like this for quite a while.
Right. And Colbert made that point, too.
That's right. That's right. And so obviously, I mean, this is just another example of media censorship. And in a related story, Warner Discovery has reopened discussions with Paramount Skydance about buying. They would buy the studio, but they would also buy CBS and CNN. And then, of course, what they would do, because they're friends of Trump's, is they would turn CNN into CBS 2. And so the whole thing is just, here we go. I mean, media censorship on the march.
Yeah, I do want to say that part of this, one part that we've skipped over so far, but I want to call people's attention to it, because first of all, what Colbert did, but also because it's kind of a generalized problem. They called Colbert, CBS brass called Colbert, told him can't do it, and then also told him, and you can't say that we told you not to do it. And then
right.
he said all of that, and he said, so since this is something that CBS doesn't want us to talk about, let's talk about it, which he can do because, first of all, he's a very wealthy man, and also because he's out of a job. Either way, this job's ending. But there's one of the things that we've proposed. I don't think we ever did this show. I will be corrected if I'm wrong. But I think we've talked a couple of times about the idea of kind of non-disclosure orders. How many things come with NDAs? How many things? Like, during the worst of the Patriot Act, often people would receive these national security letters. I think they were maybe even called that, but I'm not sure. For example, librarians in Connecticut got this national security letter that told them that they had to produce various records that they didn't want to produce. And they were also told they couldn't say to anyone that they'd gotten this letter. And I mean, when I left WTIC, which was owned by CBS, and I'm not saying CBS is any worse about this than anybody else, but I had to sign some NDAs and stuff, and saying I wouldn't talk about stuff that happened at the station. But I was also, the NDA included a thing saying I couldn't say that I'd signed an NDA, which I've obviously just violated right now. But that whole idea that, that they tried to get you not only to do a non-disclosure agreement, but to not even be able to say that you had to do that. And that's kind of one of the things that I thought Colbert was exposing last night in a way that was really good. But yes, I share your concern. And, this came up last week on our whistleblower show. Because when I was thinking about whistleblowers, well, we did a show about whistles, but then the final segment was about whistleblowers. And I was thinking about, Jeffrey Wigand, the Brown and Williamson whistleblower, and Frances Haugen, who was the Facebook whistleblower, they went on CBS. That was one of the things that they did, A, to make sure everybody knew what they were disclosing, and B, maybe to inoculate themselves a little bit by saying, okay, now a lot of people know about this. So, if I get hit by a dart full of curare in the next 48 hours, we're going to know who did that. Now I don't think CBS would play. I'm not comfortable saying that CBS would play the same role. If somebody came forward and said, like, whatever it is that Tulsi Gabbard is currently stoppering up, if they came forward and said, here's what it is, I want to go on 60 Minutes. I don't know that if they won't even let you have a congressman on the air to talk, it just seems like they're maybe not going to be comfortable, divulging secrets. Anyway, I've monopolized too much time. Did you have anything else you wanted to say here?
Well, the good thing is you can actually watch this interview on YouTube because YouTube is not covered because it's not, broadcast. So you can actually see but still, most people are, tune into Colbert to see Colbert, and they're not going to think about watching it on YouTube.
Yeah. But that's the other thing. Like, when CBS tried to kill the thing about the El Salvador prison, and it turned out that there was like a Canadian version of it that had gone out, and there was they just hadn't managed to kill everything. So they're not even that good at self-censorship. But yeah, it is hard. It's hard to stop it all up. Well, listen, Mike, thanks for bringing that up. I think it's an important thing, one we want to keep an eye on too. And okay, this is going to be challenging for me to do on the spot, but I will try. All right, Richard from Hamden. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, Colin. I explained to the woman who picked up that I've been involved with an ongoing text thread with college friends who live out of state, and a lot of it focuses on UConn basketball. But the topic of Bruce Springsteen came up because some of us had seen last year's movie, and we were going back and forth. And one of them from New Jersey, one of my friends from New Jersey, was talking about how Springsteen is number 2 on the list of musical luminaries from New Jersey. And he mentioned a couple other, the obvious number 1 is Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
But it got me thinking, if I was putting a list just off the top of my head of kind of the similar idea, musical luminaries with Connecticut roots of some kind, and I started to make a list. And I had the Carpenters, the Five Satins, Michael Bolton, Artie Shaw, who reportedly did not look back on his childhood in New Haven with affection. But anyway, Artie Shaw, Charles Ives, Al Anderson, Gene Pitney. But I looked at the list and two things kind of struck me. One, a lot of it is current stuff and not, other than Charles Ives. But, Artie Shaw. But the other thing is it's very weak on females when I was trying to think of names. So, my question to you is, hearing that list, do other names come to your mind when you think of significant Connecticut musical people?
Well, I can give you one that's, I'm sure, in fact, Dylan is typing this out to me right now. No, not yet. Although Horace Silver, he's typing out Horace Silver. Well, Sammy Ray and the Friends, the Friends, I think that's what they are. They're kind of a big thing right now in the kind of world of jazz pop, the kind of Lake Street Dive world of jazz pop. She's from East Haven, I would say, originally, and I believe went to University of New Haven. So that would be an example. I should tell you, Peter Tork of the Monkees, I believe, lived a good portion of his life in the People's Republic of Mansfield. Okay, I'm getting some other things. So Nicole Zaritis, who we're working on doing a show with right now, who's won multiple Grammys as a jazz musician. Well, if we get into jazz, we're going to be here all day, right? Because it's Jackie McLean, it's Dave Brubeck, it's in a contemporary way, it's people like Nat Reeves and Brad Meldau, Joel Fromm. So if we get into jazz, we'll be here all day. And so the maestro is pointing out to me that Vince Mendoza, I would say he's from Trumbull, but that's not where he's from, right? He's from Norwalk, maybe. Vince Mendoza, who's just the creator of these amazing charts, that Joni Mitchell heavily orchestrated album where she did standards and that new version of Clouds. He did those
Ullman
charts.
was the head of the Saturday Night Live band for a number of years.
Yeah, Christine Ullman.
She
Yeah,
was from
absolutely.
Connecticut.
Yeah, absolutely. No, she's got Connecticut. She's a Connecticut person.
Okay.
And I just was thinking of one, and it popped out of my mind what you were talking.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. I'm so excited, though. It's a good topic. What was I thinking of? Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. All right. Well, more things will come to me over the course of the show today, and I'm sure other people will call in too with various ideas. But I think we got a running start here. I think we're doing okay. We should feel pretty good about the project. And tell your college friends not to be such, don't just tell them, show us some respect here in Connecticut. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we don't have Sinatra and Springsteen. We got Charles Ives. Take that. All right. Thanks very much for your call. And we'll go to, I don't know. We'll go to Carolyn because we need to talk to everybody. Hi, Carolyn.
Hi there. How are you?
Just fine.
I have a couple of questions about you-know-who, as Whoopi Goldberg calls him, the man in the White House. I want to know, and maybe you've heard this before, but I've not heard it yet. Did Mr. Trump not get into Harvard after he had applied?
There's so much Trump biography sitting around in my head that some of it is just getting kind of, that has kind of a familiar ring to it, but I wouldn't be comfortable saying that I was sure about that. We do know that his transcripts are really, really are bottled up, right? His transcripts, I think.
Bob Woodward.
The transcripts are really hard to get. But I don't know the Harvard thing.
For a minute, I thought you were talking about transcripts, tapes from that Bob Woodward did for his book.
Oh no, that's a different thing. Yeah, that's a different thing.
Do you know? And has it? I don't have cable. Maybe this is all out there, but about the pandemic, he knew about this way before it became a big issue.
Well, the conversation that he did have with Woodward that was taped, and I don't remember when that was, but
it was like January, February, March. It was early on.
And it wasn't just, first of all, January, February, it wasn't like nobody knew about it. And I have to give credit to one of my producers. So we were at that time working on this kind of stealth brand series we had called Pardon Me. It was the second season. It was about impeachments, and we did one for the first impeachment, and then we did a second season for the second impeachment. And so we were in the process of trying to get to the end of that. It was a lot of work, and we were working late hours. And one day, Jonathan McPants, whatever his name is, he might have just messaged us or something. I can't remember what it was, but he said, this thing in China really sounds like it really sounds like that movie, the Soderbergh movie, Contagion. And he goes, it really sounds, and McPants and we kind of understand most of reality through movies. It's like, okay, it's like that movie. I understand. So, but he was right. Nobody was saying that at the time. There was certainly some understanding there was an outbreak in Wuhan. It was, and that some things were being done to respond to it. Trump, in that conversation with Woodward, where he says, among other things, worse than the flu, which is something, it's not only that he knew it ahead of people and didn't tell people, he actually told the American public something different from that. That's the bigger problem, Not that he knew about it, because in fact, there's some basis for saying sometimes you have to wait until you really can present this thing in the right way, in the most helpful way, without starting a panic.
I wish I had taped that when I heard that from Woodward a long time ago.
Yeah.
I wish I had it on tape. I really do.
Well, it's all over the internet. Everything can be found on the internet.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, you don't have to tape it. It's fine. It's just sitting out there waiting for you to find it. So
I heard he didn't. He had said he didn't want to panic people, so he's going to make nothing of it. Words to that effect, not those words, but words to that effect. And he gets all this credit for get the vaccine and all that, but nobody really harps on the other part of it, which is the beginning, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. No, there's no question. Look. Let me go an extra mile to be fair to Donald Trump, which is not really how I'm wired these days. But, there is an understanding, even within the world of public health, that you need to present things in the right way. You need to not occasion panic. blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, you can't deprive people of useful information they could use to enhance their safety.
Thank you.
And so that's the kind of knife's edge that you're on. You know, you don't want to say too much. On the other hand, you don't want to withhold information that's important. And COVID was an interesting test of all that. And it was also just an interesting test of the rapidity with which information moves these days. So, you know, I think Anthony Fauci, who I have great respect for, but, you know, he was not a creature of the 2020s. He is a guy who, you know, really did some of his most important and courageous work during the AIDS crisis. And information moves differently now. And so one thing that Fauci didn't understand is if he said something, if he said that the virus wasn't airborne, that it was probably droplet, for example, you know, that would just live forever. It would circulate as a YouTube clip. It would be a link that would just circulate all over the world forever. And correcting it was going to be really, really hard. So everybody had information challenges. But there's just no question that Trump, you know, if you go back to the early days of it, and there are a whole bunch of different books. Nicholas Christakis wrote one about Michael Lewis, I think, wrote one about the early days and what got said. Trump was minimizing it. He was saying it was going to be all over by April. I think that was one thing he said, and he certainly minimized the severity of it. Anyway, we have to take a little break, and we will come back. We have some Connecticut musician updates. I will probably have some that I'm not even aware of in my own head.
Bem, vem dizendo que vai, pois se você for, então não vou. Mas se por força maior você se machucar, aí eu tô.
On the streets of Minneapolis, they're back harassing immigrants. A fake badge and a violent wish to tread. She was good, a peaceful activist, a parked car stopping traffic, when a madman in a ski mask shot her dead. A shocking lack of empathy. You'd think for once that we'd agree it's heartless to call this self-defense. I guess kindness isn't common. I guess kindness isn't common sense.
All right, we are back. It's Ask or Tell Me Anything. We're about to talk to Zachary, who's driving. But first of all, I want to tell you that you too can call up. 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR. You can call up and be one of the people who talks on the air about your thoughts and feelings. And Zachary is now going to just demonstrate how to do that. Hi, Zachary.
Hi, Colin. I'm actually home now.
Oh, good. I'm so relieved.
So, yeah, I am calling to kind of get your thoughts and opinion on the stubbornness of this idea of the super wealthy as job creators, and, like, where did it come from? Why has it stuck around so long? And how it just kind of ignores the reality that it's the demand side of the equation that kind of actually leads to the creation of anything, right? Like, if no one wants something, no one's going to make it.
Yeah, I mean, the sort of a build the better mousetrap theory. I think I hate to be kind of fuzzy about it, but I think it's a combination of things. Yes, if there's a demand and you can figure out how to meet the demand, then you don't have to be a super wealthy person. You don't have to be, Peter Thiel or whatever. I think also government plays a role, particularly in situations where they maybe create innovation hubs, where maybe a lot of innovators are coming together, swapping ideas, maybe coming up with new ideas that can create jobs. And yeah, look, I mean, I think the real question is not job creation, but what kind of jobs are being created. Are these, among other things, jobs anybody would really want to have? Are these jobs that, in fact, take people who are highly skilled and have them doing less skilled things? I mean, all of these things you want to kind of drill down. The number itself, and maybe that's what you're saying too, the number itself doesn't tell the whole story.
Absolutely.
The crosstabs and granular stuff is what makes it important. I do think there is a role that government can play in fomenting. I mean, and once again, job creation may be the wrong metric. Maybe the metric is, there might be some other way to talk about it and try to measure innovation. But, when you can create hubs, when you can create an area where people are coming together who are all working in tech or whatever, and have them kind of generating stuff together, maybe being able to share campuses a little bit, creating workspaces where people can maybe come in and co-work and stuff like that. There's things that, the public sector, the private sector, everybody has a role that they can play. But you're right that, it's just suggesting that one of the great mandarins, waves his hand. Look at Amazon. There's a big debate about, in a way, Bezos thought of something, that, and continued to think it out. Was initially a book delivery company, and it got bigger and bigger. And I think he probably understood something about us that we didn't understand about ourselves. But that doesn't mean those are great jobs. I don't think Amazon jobs are necessarily viewed as these precious jewels that one must strive to obtain. So I don't know. Any final thoughts, Zachary?
Yeah. On that, I think job creation gets used as a convenient proxy for value to society, and because I think ultimately my problem with this framing, every time I come across it, is kind of almost more of a philosophical one than a economic one strictly. That it gets this framing that they create jobs. Job creation is used as this stand-in for these people being more valuable to society and as a justification for extreme economic inequality, I guess, is the wrap-up for all that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think maybe I would argue the point a little bit differently, but I would argue the same point. And I guess what I would sort of say is when you look at the accumulation of wealth and the amount of it that is just retained by those people for no other reason that they just enjoy having a lot of it and maybe moving up in the rankings or whatever the hell they're thinking about, the amount of jobs that they create as opposed to the amount of jobs they could create with the same amount of wealth.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think that they should get a lot of credit for that. No. I think it takes the focus off the real problem, which is how much of America's resources, how much of America's wealth is retained by the richest 1% or the richest 3%, however you want to measure it. And obviously that concentration at the top keeps getting worse and worse. We are less progressive now than we were 10, 20, 30 years ago. And so job creation is not a defense against it. It's not a defense against it morally, and it's not a defense against it practically. So, Zachary, I think we can end this call. We are on the same page about this.
Okay.
All right, good. Who would have thought? It's got to happen once in a while. Oh, that's a good one right there. Yeah. Okay. So we have some other Connecticut musicians, but we'll come. Although I just want to say that I did one thing. I thought about it, and then as I was talking, it flew out of my aging, grizzled head. But something has to be said about Hal Blaine. Hal Blaine, who according to Hal Blaine, he's dead now, but in his lifetime, I think Hal Blaine would have been the first to tell you that he appears on more records than anybody. He was a session drummer with a Wrecking Crew, and he played, I think, by his estimate, on 35,000 different recordings, so something like that. But he was from the north end of Hartford. He was actually present at the Hartford Circus Fire, something we'll be talking about very soon. And then I forgot to mention, people forget, Johann Sebastian Bach was from Ansonia. He played football there, too. So we'll keep him also. All right, here is Monica from Southbury. Hi, Monica.
Oh, hi, Colin. I'm calling you because I think you have a great brain and great memory. And I'm following up a little bit on the Colbert comment that came first. And something that's always stuck in my mind that I think brought down our society and truth in the media was my understanding that there was a law on the books into the 80s where you would need to have both sides of an issue, especially I would assume on news programs, that you did have to present both sides of the issue, not just one side. And then in the 80s, it was a Republican, I think, administration. They allowed that to die down.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan.
And I think that brought about the beginning of cable, one side of the story. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so the term you're looking for is fairness doctrine. That's what it was called, the fairness doctrine. So it wasn't a law. It was a doctrine within the FCC. It didn't have the force of law, which is what made it very easy for Ronald Reagan to say, well, I don't think we're going to do that anymore. The thing that it gave rise to first, and most importantly, was Rush Limbaugh and his ilk, because it just coincided perfectly with AM radio being kind of a vast wasteland that nobody knew what to do with. All the music had moved over to FM. So what are you going to do with this thing? This huge spectrum of 50,000 watt AM radio stations. And Rush Limbaugh was one of the first people to figure out how to optimize that or how to capitalize on it. And his business model was really interesting, too. What he often would do is go to the radio stations and say, I'll be on the air if you're an East Coast station, live from noon to 3 on your station, and you won't have to pay me anything. You just have to leave the advertising holes that I need open. I'll give you a couple of advertising holes so you can fire whoever is on the air right now from noon to 3 and not have to hire anybody to replace them or even pay for my content. He didn't do that for every single station, but that was the model that really got him going. And obviously that would have been a very difficult thing to do. If there were a fairness doctrine, Rush was so many things. Fair was not one of those things. He was just radically unbalanced and non-factual about a whole bunch of stuff. And it was an incredibly successful formula. He had 17 million listeners. Then everybody like Sean Hannity comes along. Everybody wants to do this. Suddenly everybody's got an unfair, unbalanced, right-wing AM radio talk show. And a lot of that is due to the death of the fairness doctrine. I would argue it was coming anyway. And the other thing about the fairness doctrine is that it can only apply to broadcast. So as things got more and more digital, so many people are listening to this show, they're either live streaming it or they're watching it on YouTube, God help them, or they're listening to a podcast. None of that is regulated by the FCC. They don't have, the only reason the FCC can regulate something is that the airwaves are legally defined as a public trust. And so that public trust then is licensed out to companies that become license holders. And back in the old days, you had to defend your license, I think, a little bit more significantly than you do these days. But yeah, that's most. Does that help? Is that helpful to you?
Very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sure. Google fairness doctrine, and you'll see. Okay, this is really a good call from Tom. We do have some Connecticut musician stuff, and we will get to all of that as well. Here is Tom driving either in the area of Milford or somewhere else entirely. And he's signaling right now. He's signaling for a left turn, I think.
Hi, Colin.
Hi.
Yeah, this is Tom in New Milford.
New Milford, my mistake.
So my question is, and there's lots of stuff that's not going right with Trump, and I'm not trying to make it sound like it's a good thing, but is there any way to conceive of a post-Trump era as an opportunity to rebuild what he's torn down and rebuild it essentially better?
Well, it's the $1 trillion question. is what comes next. I mean, something has to come next because he's not going to last forever. I would be a little bit surprised if he lasts all the way through this term.
Right.
And there's the ancillary question of what will happen in 2028. Will we have free and fair elections? Yada yada. But I mean, I think it's a mistake not to be planning for the future. But the future is also. I mean, this is such a hard thing to talk about. So many things have been destroyed. I mean, if you think about those first 3 months, particularly when Doge was, which people a distant memory somehow, but when they were running around just eviscerating things, eviscerating really important things like USAID and stuff like that. I mean, all of that stuff is going to have to be rebuilt from scratch, and inevitably there are some benefits to that, right? It's sort of like zero-based budgeting, which never really works, but that idea that everything should have to just justify its existence. And so if it's been zeroed out, then everything will have to justify its existence that you put back in, as you put it back in.
Yeah.
I think maybe the more important thing, this is a very flabby answer, but the first thing we need is some kind of national consensus about a lot of things, like what the United States, I mean, we're never going to have 100% consensus, but if we could have some consensus around the center between the 40-yard lines, as I like to say, if there's some consensus between the 40-yard lines, okay, so AOC and Rand Paul are not going to agree about a lot of things, although there's probably some things that they do agree about. Maybe Rand Paul was the wrong example. But, okay, so AOC and, I don't know, Ted Cruz, they're not going to agree about that many things. But there are people between the 40-yard lines who can agree about a lot of things, and those people have to learn to talk to one another and achieve a consensus. What's the American experiment about in the late 2020s and going into the 2030s, and what are some ways of factual verification so that we can at least come to a rough consensus about what the truth is and not have this kind of epistemic malaise that we're living through right now. So those are the things at the beginning. And then, what kind of country do you want this to be? Do you want this to be a country that has, just to pick USAID, we could pick a million different things. We could pick going back to acknowledging that climate change is a reality. All of those things are going to, there's all these reversions that will have to take place. Go ahead.
But what I get stuck with in trying to make lemonade out of lemons here is it's easier and faster to tear something down.
Oh yeah.
Okay, than to rebuild it. And take the CDC or USAID. It's not like he can fire or get rid of the whole staff in a month. But if you say I want to start over again, it's a long process. And I think the other more practical thing, it's an expensive process to rebuild because you're going to have to increase budgets and that sort of stuff. And I'm just wondering if there's
Are you trying to break into somebody's car right now? Because that's something you should have your full attention.
I'm sorry about that. I pulled over into a gas station.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to find out, and everything you say is true. Is you're still going to have the divide between the even if Trump doesn't get reelected and a very progressive, right-minded Democrat does get elected, the momentum to try to shift things is probably the harder thing than the will.
Oh, way harder. And some of it is going to be irreparable, when you defund the National Science Foundation and stuff like that, what happens is there's a brain drain. And the minute we started cutting federal research grants to things like, unpopular niche things like cancer research. A lot of those researchers were offered deals and grants in other countries. The EU in particular just started poaching our people. We're going to be more second rate for a long time, probably for the rest of my life.
Right.
The United States is going to be a second-rate country that is no longer, and look at the international conversation that's taking place right now, whether it's in Davos or in Munich, the same conversation that's taking place. We can't trust the United States the way we used to. They were also little unreliable, but now, and once people figure out what to do without you, once the EU, once the G7, once they figure out what to do without you, you can't unring that bell. They've now figured out what to do without you. Once Canada has a better trade deal with China than it did with you, They're not going to go back to you. Even if Trump is gone, even if J.D. Vance is gone, we are going to be looked at as an unreliable country that is given to bizarre whims and given to electing presidents who are insane and anti-globalists in the worst sense of that term. I know globalism isn't always great.
And the corollary to that is when you try to rebuild and you want to go to a grad student and say, listen, Trump is gone and we're rebuilding the CDC, you're a bright grad student, you want to come work for the CDC, he's going to say, well, it used to be if you got a good government job, within reason, you had it for life, okay? But now you're going to say, he can only promise me 3 or 4 years because who knows what comes next.
Yeah. And it's also important to remember a lot of the people who've left quit. Some people got just cleaned out by Doge or by somebody else, but a lot of people just quit because they just didn't see any point in working in this environment anymore. Those people are going to be very hard to get back to. Anyway, sorry to end on that depressing a note, but we are going to end on that depressing a note. But then we are going to continue because you can call 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR. Please do. We have room for you.
Every second counts. I don't wanna talk to you anymore. All these little games, you can call me by the name I gave you yesterday. When you see me, I'm waiting for the right time. I can't read your but if you want the pleasure's all mine. Can you see me using everything to hold back? I guess this could be worse. Walking out the door with your bags. 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 Yeah, yeah.
All right, we're back. Time to say some thank yous to people. I would start with the maestro, Dylan Reyes, the technical producer of the show, the CEO of Lily Tyson Quality Entertainment Productions, who's Lily Tyson. Robin Doyen-Aiken, who's our boss, is that woman she was referred to earlier. Actually, she is a woman. I'm not disputing that. Who is taking the phone calls. And Joe Koss and his band of Merry Pranksters are handling the YouTube part of what we're doing here. We are on YouTube. Too late for you to watch it today, but maybe next week. What else do I have to say? Was that everybody? Did I just mention everybody? Oh, yeah. I'd also like to thank everybody else, the whole human race, just in case I'm skipping anybody. So, we're kind of updating the whole musicians from Connecticut question, and we've got like a master list here. John Mayer, George Thorogood, John Schofield, a little bit of a reach there. There's so many jazz musicians. You'd be here all day. Kevin Bacon, is he technically a musician? How about the other Bacon brother? How come that person's from Connecticut? Or maybe not. And so let's go over here because I think there's somebody else who has something else to say. So Willie, you've got one or two, right?
Yes, I do. And my first one is a bit of a stretch, but I am enthusiastic to add it because she's one of my favorites, and we were looking for more women. Liz Phair was born at Yale New Haven Hospital, and she lived in New Haven until she was about 4. She was adopted, and of course she came up in Chicago. But I love to claim Liz Phair as New Haven's own. And beyond that, Rivers Cuomo of Weezer grew up.
He's in the quiet
Massachusetts
corner. Was he in the quiet corner? He's up there.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was up in the woods up there. I don't remember what town, but he was pretty far up. So that it's a.
We haven't said Paul Winter. Paul Winter, obviously operating out of Connecticut for forever, basically, and saving the world in the process. Willie, thank you for your call so much. We got some other people want to get to us. Let's go to Jim in Hamden. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Colin. I just want to say, first of all, that woman, Robin, is awesome.
She is,
and as you all are, and I'm a long-time listener.
She's the nicest one of us.
I would believe that, yeah. One thing you said about how the rest of the world's not going to trust us because we kind of like closed up the store a little bit.
A little.
And my brother owned a liquor store and got sick and had to close for a month. And that was the end of his business because all his customers went somewhere else.
Yep.
And he was never able to get them back. And I don't think in our lifetime we're going to be able to get our customers back.
No, I mean, and it's, trade agreements are even more complicated than your brother's. Admittedly, a very unfortunate situation.
Right, of course, obviously, yes.
And a lot of them,
but on a small scale.
Yeah, a lot of them also involve long-term planning, like 5, 6, 5, 10, 15-year plans, which is being hit here. All these automakers who thought they were doing a smart thing by making these 5 to 8 year plans to gradually convert more and more to electric vehicles. And then they just completely had the carpet pulled out from underneath them. But that's happening also at a world level. You want to know that you're going to be able to sell your product at such and such a price with such and such a tariff structure, if any, for...
At least in America, we're going to be seen as flip-floppers. And with every subsequent administration, there's a chance that the total opposite is going to be happening.
Yeah. I think we could probably persuade countries that it won't, we could try to persuade them that this won't happen again once we finally get, but I don't think they'll believe us. Why would they believe us?
I don't think they will either.
I am planning to go to do a major tour, a personal tour of Scandinavia and try to persuade them that we won't ever do this again. But I don't think it's going to work.
Right. Well, maybe we could get them to emigrate.
Yeah, no, I think we should get them to let us emigrate. But anyway, one way or the other, things cannot hold this. No, it is. It's laughable because it's so bad. What we have done, and what we have done also is empower voices. And I'm not saying these are bad voices either. I don't think Mark Carney's a bad voice, but he's such a great example of somebody who, first of all, won his election because of us. He was going to lose that election. He won his election because of us, and now is really kind of a voice to be listened to and a presence to be reckoned with internationally, both at the level of diplomacy and trade. Because, in fact, he has identified the problem, which is that the old world order has been destabilized. So, yeah, this is going to take a long, long time to unfix, and it probably won't ever go back to the way that it was. All right, here's William in Middletown. Hi, William.
Oh, wow, great. Yes, hi. I was going to call earlier and mention Viktor Orban. What's our president doing with him? But then I said, that's a bummer, and I really don't want to talk about that.
Oh, I thought you were going to claim that he was a musician from Connecticut. And I was going to say, not right.
Not even close. But here's the thing. We learn to appreciate things when we get close to losing them. And a lot of people I know in my circles are starting to reevaluate democracy, but in a different way, not in the same old way, but looking at it in a way that is a kind of a spiritual challenge that, I watched the thing on PBS about democracy by, the revolution. I myself began to see that it's fragile, but it still has energy and strength, and that people are beginning to, I think, awaken to that. And I think they're seeing how close we can lose our way of life, and it's becoming, I think, a little bit more appreciated. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think this might be a little bit of. I understand that you're just trying to dig through this pile of horse crap and see if there's a pony in there somewhere. But yeah, and it is there. There are a lot of things that we took for granted. And Joni Mitchell warned us about this. And we didn't pay any attention to Joni Mitchell, who's not from Connecticut. Yeah, I mean, I hope that's a legitimate silver lining. But it's one that I strain for right now. I think the price we're going to pay for it is pretty damn high. But thanks, William, for sharing it. I mean, it's something we shouldn't lose sight of anyway. By the way, the Connecticut Musician Report is growing. The Isaac Moss Report has gotten involved. Do you people know about the Isaac Moss Report? It's a highly secretive, private newsletter about the broadcasting world, especially public broadcasting. And you probably can't even get a copy of it. That nobody even knows who Isaac Moss is. Whoever Isaac Moss is, that's a secret too. But nonetheless, the Isaac Moss Report is pointing out, MGMT started at Wesleyan. If we do Wesleyan, then we've got to do Dar Williams, also from Wesleyan, and Lin-Manuel Miranda. I guess he counts, doesn't he? And there's a lot of them, is the point. Moby, Thurston Moore. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of things like that. All right, so we're going to go to one last call. We have time for this one last call. It's Ruth from Sandy Hook. Hi, Ruth.
Hi, Colin. Good afternoon. How are you?
I am fine. You've got a good story for us? Tell it with alacrity. We're short on time here.
All right. Well, I'll only be able to tell it shortly. I should have written down more information. I came across this article this morning in the New York Times that was talking about Columbia Dental School. And lo and behold, Jeffrey Epstein had a girlfriend. In fact, she was the last person, supposedly, to speak to him before his death. Her name is Karina Shulnick, Shuliak. And Epstein left her $100 million and homes, and she was a girlfriend. And there's some other people in the dental school that have been fired because they made a path for her to get into dental school, like a really a wild story. And I had never even heard mention that he had a girlfriend.
Yeah, I have to say, she did a crown replacement for me, and she did a terrific job. I don't know that, I mean, that doesn't, your mileage may vary, as we say in dentistry. All right, thanks very much for listening today. Thanks to Ruth for ending the show, and we'll be back. We have a whole week of shows ahead of us. Who knows what they are?
I'll be gone for a season, but I'll be coming back next spring. When old love starts to sing again, my heart will ring-a-ling again next spring. Next spring. Oh, love, you're the reason I'll never, ever roam again. I'm gonna build a home at last, leave my traveling in the past. This spring, baby, this spring.